The year is 2012 and you just got done listening to Whistle by Flo Rida. You proceed to boot up your Xbox to what is possibly one of the most underrated games to come out in the 2010s. That's right, it's Dishonored. For me, Dishonored used to be a yearly routine. I always played it during the fall or winter whenever I was on break as a sort of comfort game. It always scratched that part of my brain that wanted to play a free-form game that wasn't dictated by set rules and wasn't insanely long or bloated. It was a game that I could complete in 2 to 3 days and be satisfied. Dishonored has always been a part of my life, and now that I'm older, I've started to think about its legacy. What exactly makes this one of the greatest games of all time? Arcane Studios had worked for years in order to refine their vision for Dishonored. The project was first pitched back in 2009, and the team behind it had some pretty notable faces in the industry. One being Sebastian Mitten, who was the art director for Dishonored 1 and 2. He previously worked on the art team for Bioshock 2, as well as other projects for Arcane. Mitten was joined by Viktor Antonov, who was responsible for the concept of City 17 in Half-Life 2. The lead designer of Dishonored and founder of Arcane was Harvey Smith. His most famous work prior to this was the Deus Ex franchise. Alongside him was his co-creative director, Rafael Colantonio, who would go on to head the Arcane Austin studio, where he was the creative director for Prey. It's safe to say that the game was in good hands. Before this, though, Arcane wasn't sure what to do. They had a couple of projects that never came to be, and they didn't seem very hopeful for their future. That is, until they were approached by Bethesda Studios with an idea. That idea being a stealth game set in feudal Japan that would use both magic and stealth combat to tell a story centered around revenge. Sound familiar? Well, this would become the foundation for what we know as Dishonored today. Instead of feudal Japan, Arcane pretty much said, well, what if we take this concept and paint over it with a gothic aesthetic and have the story take place in the midst of a plague? They took a huge risk, and my god did it pay off. And on that day, Dishonored was born. Jump forward to 2012, which was a year littered with sequels from already established franchises. Just to list a few, we've got Borderlands 2, Far Cry 3, Black Ops 2, Diablo 3, Mass Effect 3, Halo 4, Assassin's Creed 3, Max Payne 3, and the best of them all being Operation Raccoon City, of course. Oh, that game is so fucking good. So why in the fiery hell did Arcane think releasing a brand new IP during this time was a good idea? I'll tell you why. It's because they knew they had a great game and didn't give a rat's ass who they were up against. This risk led them to winning several awards, even in a year swamped with sequels. Arcane essentially put themselves back on the map and gave the fattest middle finger to every other company in the industry. Dishonored's writing manages to transcend the medium by echoing the works of Edgar Allan Poe and William Shakespeare. It does so with its blend of gothic atmosphere and deeply tragic themes. It also has the quality of literature that just makes it timeless. It doesn't try to imitate what has already been done before. The world is entirely encased within itself. This is what makes it as good as it is. There is no other game like Dishonored. There is no other world like Dishonored, and its story is another part of why its legacy lives on. Dishonored is a tale of vengeance, power, and betrayal in a city plagued with not only rats, but deeply internal corruption and treason. You assume the role of Corvo Attano, whose journey resembles that of a tragic tale in classic literature. It is a path birthed by death and betrayal. These two things make Corvo into the perfect weapon to be used and exploited until he ultimately regains his autonomy and goes after everyone who had a hand in his fall from grace. However, his autonomy is not fully regained. It's only partial because of the brand of the Outsider, an entity who marks Corvo, deeming him worthy of supernatural abilities. The Outsider uses the Void and is a silent mentor to Corvo. He doesn't directly influence him, but he gives him the power to change the fate of Dunwall. It's Corvo's situation that makes this story so impactful. He doesn't begin as the successful protector. He's a pawn who has to take back his reputation by force. Depending on how you play, he's either the anti-hero or simply just the hero. This choice is impactful to not only the story, but the gameplay in general. Dishonored has a mechanic called chaos. It divides itself into a scale between high and low. High chaos is a direct result of your own brutality. The more you kill, the more the environment reacts. The plague spreads further and more rapid. The overall tone shifts darker and darker, with weepers flooding the sewers and rats lurking in every dark corner in Dunwall. Low chaos, however, causes the environment to not react as violently to your actions. The sky stays relatively bright given the overall ambience of the game, and the way you interact with characters is impacted. The consequences are directly derived from your choices, and this is what makes this game personalized. It takes the player and envelops them into the world. It truly immerses you in a way that not many games are capable of today. Along with this mechanic is the sleek and satisfying stealth combat. You can go full pacifist and just slither around in the shadows, or be a silent demon that picks people off one by one. On the other hand, you can go full psychotic and duel everyone, or just put a bullet in them. It's just another example of how the game can be personalized to each player. Do I think you're crazy if you play this game like it's Call of Duty? Yeah, of course I do. You freak. The game is built upon stealth. I mean, Blink is my favorite ability in any stealth game to date. It's iconic and OP. It gives the player a sense of agency, allowing them to be the predator in any situation. You almost always have the upper hand, and if you pair this with the other abilities, it's simply diabolical. I mean, you've got Bend Time, Shadow Kill, Possession, and you can even summon a swarm of rats like it's New York. The gameplay allows for experimentation. Every playthrough is made special by how you want to play the game, what abilities you want to pair with one another, and if you want to go the stealth route or try something new and go the upfront and brutal route. Your choice is your own. And at the end of the day, the game is just fun. As a quick side note, about 0.5% of you are actually subscribed. Personally, I'd like to see at least 1%, given that 99% of you aren't. And if you've made it this far into the video, you might think I'm talking to you, because I am. So please, if you enjoyed the video or any part of it, subscribe. Now, back to the video. We've talked about the past, now let's talk 2024. Dishonored is a really timeless game. It spawned 2 sequels that were both good in their own respective ways, but they never quite lived up to the original Dishonored. The original Dishonored was so strong that you can continue to go back to it. I mean, I do, even after countless playthroughs. If this game was released in 2024 or beyond, it would do just as well, if not better. All it would need is a little graphical update. There's also the added bonus that it's consistently dirt cheap in every Steam sale. Over the years, Arcane has pushed out some consistently good games, minus Redfall of course. Good God. But in my opinion, none as great as Dishonored. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. I'm thinking of making this a series, so if there's a game you want to see me cover, leave a comment down below. See you in the next one.